Hi, y'all. Welcome back to LightenLab Learn. For those of you who are new here, I am Professor Leah Ruppanner. I'm a sociologist. I'm one of the founding directors of the Future Work Lab. I have a podcast called Misperceived, and I have a book out, Drained: How to Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More. I am one of the leading experts on the mental load. Everything I tell you is research backed. Everything I tell you has evidence. Everything I tell you has thousands of people behind it. Everything I tell you is not my opinion, but it is what the research shows. Now, today I'm going to talk to you about what are the 8 different types of mental load. For those of you who missed the first video, first go back and watch. Obviously, take a pause, take 10 minutes. It'll give you the overall definition. But for those of you who missed the first video, here's a quick refresher. The mental load is emotional thinking work. It's when you think something internally and it has an emotional element. It's a different type of labor to cognitive labor and emotional labor and physical labor. It's emotional thinking work. And it has 3 main characteristics. It's invisible, it happens inside, it's done within your body. It's boundaryless. You can bring that mental load anywhere you go. And it's enduring. It lasts forever. It's never ending. It feels like this treadmill of mental load thoughts coming in your head. But the mental load is super critical too, right? Because you need to do a mental load to keep work, life, and family running. You can't get rid of the mental load. You have to keep a piece of the mental load. You have mental load energy. You have to do it. The question is, what we're helping you do is understand when you're doing it, what it looks like, and what is the composition. And with the ultimate goal of getting a little more strategic. If you go into video number 3, I'll start to talk to you about why it leads to such a heavy burnout. And if you go into video 4, I'll walk you through how to do a mental load audit, which is one of the pieces of the mental load solutions that comes through my book. So let's start here. You are probably absolutely exhausted because you are carrying, highly likely, 8 different types of mental load. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but you're carrying 8. Now, for those of you who have never heard this, let me tell you what that looks like, okay? The mental load has 8 different pieces. And if you took our LightenLab assessment quiz, right? Like if you went in and did that, some of the results you're getting are being drawn based on these 8 different types. Let me read them to you and tell you what they are. The first type is life organization. This is the idea that are you staying on top of the planning and the tasks? This is all of that work that maybe you might be making lists for, but making sure that everything is happening exactly when it should and how it should. So you're keeping track of at work, the sequencing of the work that needs to be done for the day. At home, you might be thinking about, have I made sure that have enough groceries or that my family members are where they need to be. This is the life organization. It's all that emotional thinking work that goes to planning and tasks to make sure things get done. This is our most traditional understanding of the mental load. When we talk about the mental load in broader culture, this is often what we're talking about. And for many of you, this may feel familiar, right? You might be like, oh yeah, I know this mental load. Great. Let's move on to number 2. The second type of mental load that you're carrying, some of you, maybe not all of you, but many of you, it's the emotional support mental load. This is that work that you do when you check in on your family members, you check in on your friends, you check in on your coworkers. It's the work you're doing internally where you're thinking about, oh no, my coworker Sue, is she okay? She just had a hard week or something bad happened to her. I need to check in to make sure she's okay. It's that emotional thinking work that you do when you're thinking about if people in your life are okay and whether you need to step in and provide emotional support. Now, you may do some of that emotional support work. And as you go back to my previous video, that can be another form of labor that sits on top or underneath the mental load, right? So you may go back in and have to do some emotional labor work when you're providing emotional support, making sure you're empathetic, putting your emotions aside, showing up in ways that, are aligned with who you are. But when you do that emotional thinking work of, oh gosh, is my kid is starting school and they've had a really hard day, I better think about them and check in. Or if you're a student at a university or a high school student or a student anywhere, maybe you're thinking about, oh, my friend came in the other day and she had a really hard day because her test came back and she's not good, or the friends are being unkind, and maybe I should just check in and offer them support. When you do that emotional thinking work, that's a mental load. You do it for your family, you do it for your friends, you do it for your coworkers. You might even do it for your pets. Let's be honest. If you are a pet mom or a pet dad, you're doing it. The third type is relationship hygiene. Now, For some people might call this like kin keeping. You might have heard this word kin keeping. Like I need to make sure that my parents feel connected or my siblings feel connected. I'm maintaining strong connections, social connections with others. You are doing that. That's one type of relationship hygiene when you do that relationship hygiene with your extended family, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your aunties, your uncles, siblings. Yes. But you also might be doing this relationship hygiene work to make sure that the relationship is strong and the social connections are there with your partner, with your spouse, with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend. Thinking about, are we connecting? Do we have enough time together? Are they distant? That's a relationship hygiene question. You can do it for your kids if you have children, right? Like, are they okay today? But you also do it at work. This is when you're starting to think about, who am I connected to? Do I have the right networks? Have I reached out to that person? Am I giving the right affect when I do that? This relationship hygiene work, it doesn't just sit at home. It isn't just kin keeping. It isn't just the work we do for those in our life that we love. It's also work we do at work. But when we do this work at work, guess what we call it? We call it networking. We know it's valuable. We know it's important. But when we bring it into our home and our family lives, it gets a little murky. Sometimes it's kin keeping, but sometimes it is actually networking. If you have kids and you want to make sure that they have strong social connections, man, you're out there with parents you don't know trying to organize things for them too. And man, sometimes that can feel like a lot of work, right? Let's be honest. Like that can feel like the similar amount of kind of detached, non-emotional work we do when we do at work. That can sometimes be very strategic. Sometimes it's highly emotional, sometimes it's strategic, but either way, it's that mental load thinking. I'm now at three. You ready for number four? Here we go. Number four, magic making. Now, magic making across my interviews, hands down, had two clear and consistent results on this. First, women disproportionately did the magic making. Men were much less likely to say they did it, especially around the holidays. Christmas, Thanksgiving. I'm going to throw in some British ones. Boxing Day. I know people don't do anything for that per se, but all of these holidays that you do to make sure they feel special, that work was disproportionately done by women. The thing that also happened was women either loathed that work or they loved it. They loved creating the magic of the holidays or they absolutely hated it. And for those who hated to do the magic making work of the holidays, man, that was stressful, especially when you're doing that work to provide for other people, when it crosses over to emotional support, when it crosses over to life organization, right? So thinking about these eight different types, they can cross over though, right? Sometimes you do magic making and that's one part of your mental load, but then it can kick off into life organization. I want to make sure that the holidays are special. I want to make sure that my children have magic. I want to make sure that they have holiday memories so later on they don't loathe me. What are we going to do in terms of buying the presents? Who wants what? How much money do we have? That's when it ticks over into life organization. And then it can even go into emotional support. Well, I got to make sure Auntie's invited, but she's like a little bit difficult. So I got to check in and make sure she's okay before she comes. So this can be a very emotive moment. You do magic making at work too. And often we call this office housework, and it gets also allocated to women. So sometimes it's about how do we make sure that birthdays are celebrated? How do we make sure that that person feels recognized? How do we make sure that our end of the year event feels good? This work is magic making work that you do at work too. Sometimes you are trying to create magic, in part to create magic, to create team cohesion, to make people feel respected and valued. It's the same thing at home. It's just at home, it's more emotional because it's tied to your own childhoods, it's tied to your own experiences in magic making, and it's tied to your kids and your legacy and what's going to happen. So this is happening in both domains. What I will say to you is men, of course, do some magic making work, and that came through the interviews as well. But this was much more likely to be concentrated in things like, how do I make sure the weekend feels special? How do I make sure family holidays feel special? How do I make sure I create magic in these other ways? So I want you to think about with the mental load. And again, this is what we're doing at LightenLab, right? How do you measure your mental load at different moments in time? How do you capture the weight across the day, across the seasons, across a year, across your life stages? Sometimes magic making can feel really heavy, and that can be the moment like Christmas or the holidays where there's high stakes, high emotionality and your people are around you, and magic making can feel heavy. Sometimes magic making can feel wonderful. If you're out with your family or you have a holiday trip planned or you're taking a vacation someplace new, what a gift of magic making. And that mental load can feel light. This is why you need to be measuring. This is why you need to be thinking. This is why you need to be monitoring your mental load again, again, and again, and again, because it can feel different. The same category can have a different feeling based on the events that are coming antecedent to it. This is why we want you to start thinking about how am I constantly checking in, much like your blood pressure, right? Much like your steps, much like your body battery. How are you checking in to see where's my mental load at? And is it giving me something or is it taking something away? Can I reduce the drain? Can I increase the reward? That will come in video 4. So keep watching. Okay, I'm at 4. Let's go to 5. Dream building. This is a mental load about how do you make sure that you and others are able to fulfill your passions, your dreams, your ambitions? How do you make sure you're spending your mental load energy thinking about the future, thinking about what you want, thinking about your ambitions, thinking about your dreams? If you are a man across our interviews, many of them talked about, yeah, I got it, right? Like, I got it. I'm doing this. I'm making sure my dreams are rewarded. I'm investing in them because an investment in my dreams are an investment in my future. A lot of the women, the mothers in particular, people who had high care demands, were talking about like, wow, my dreams have been starved. My dreams once were there, but now they've disappeared. And what I want to say to you is this is a really critical piece to start thinking about your dreams, your ambitions. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What is your purpose in this world? What are you here to give to others? For some of you, you might be totally aligned. You're in it, your dreams, your energy, your mental, it's all spent working you towards your greatest ambition. But for those of you for whom it is not, this is the moment to start to pause, think, and figure out what's going on for you. Dream building is so critical, not just for you, but for me, for us, for the world, especially in the worlds we're living in now. I want you to start thinking about where I'm going and where do I want to be rather than this reaction to what's happening. I want you to be strategic in your mental load. I'll talk to you about that in a couple of videos, but I want you to start thinking about that. Get that in your head because the mental load audit is going to help you align that. I'm at number 6. Told you there's 8. Number 6, this is the mental load to individual upkeep. This is like, how am I doing to keep myself fit and healthy? What am I doing to invest in myself? Now, for many of you, this is time well spent. People talked about mental loads to individual upkeep, like making sure you're out, exercising, walking, stretching, whatever, was such a critical and key investment. Helped to lighten stress, helped to lighten the load, was just wonderful. For others of you, this is the thing that gets crowded out, right? This is the thing that actually, do I have a doctor's appointment? Did I get my teeth cleaned? Have I been working out? Have I been eating right? This kind of mental load to individual upkeep, keeping fit and healthy, and making sure you're investing in yourself can feel really uncomfortable and can be the thing that gets sacrificed when life gets busy. I'm here to say, let's see if we can create some space, some capacity, some bandwidth so you don't constantly feel like your individual upkeep is on the back burner. 7, mental load to safety. This is the emotional thinking work you do about protecting your family and loved ones from danger. These can be hypothetical things like, am I able to walk alone at night? Did we lock the door? Are we at risk for fill in the blank, for measles, mumps, whatever it is, COVID? For those of us who lived through the pandemic, which is all of us, this was the moment of an incredible mental load to safety. If I said to you, when you were thinking about your mental load during COVID, what were you thinking about? Many of you will say, like, should I mask? Should I not? Should I show up? Should I not? Should I get the vaccine? Should I not? Is it risky for me to show up at grandma's house if I have a little bit of a cold? What if I'm asymptomatic? Man, these were mental loads to safety on steroids. And I want you to think about when you do this, when you think about the safety of yourself and others in your life, safety from risk. I'm talking about health risk, but there's risk to bodily violence. There's risk, to your longevity, your well-being, your wealth, your money, your jobs, all the things, right? Like when you're thinking about how do I protect myself and my family and those that I love, pets, everybody, that's your mental load to safety. Now, let me give you the last one, 8. last but not least, is the mental load of Medicare. This is the idea of your mental loads are going to be spent in ways that are thinking about, are you creating the world you want to live in? Do you have your values, your energy, your behaviors aligned with whom you want to be? At work, you might be thinking about, I want to be a leader. I want to be a CEO. I want to be someone who steps in and shows up and shows people how to be at this organization and be effective. This is your mental load of Medicare. And then you might start to think about like, how do I do that? How do I show up and work in the ways that align with who I really want to be? How do I show up in my family life in ways that are aligned with who I want to be? And how do I show up in my life, friends, family, out in the world in those ways? Am I showing up as the person I want? And am I actually creating environments where people can thrive? Am I helping people create, lives that help create a bigger and better world? This is increasingly important, right? As the world becomes more unstable, as things feel overwhelming. I can tell you, I heard this everywhere. I heard people talking about warming planets. I heard people talking about political instability. I heard people talking about, the legacy of COVID. I heard people talking about generative AI, right? Like, what is the world going to be? And how do I show up in a way that actually is aligned with my values, but helps move the world forward in the way in which I want? Now, this feels a little bit kind of meta, which is why we called it Medicare, right? Like this is meta. You're starting to think about like who am I, what I am I, and how do I live in this world? Those are the 8 different types of the mental load. Now, you might have some ideas about how you carry them in work, how you carry them in life, how you carry them at home. It might be heavier in some places than others, right? You might be like, wow, I do a lot of emotional support, mental load at home. I do a lot of that magic making at home. But wow, my life organization at work, that is heavy. And my dream building at work and my, fill in the blank at work, my Medicare at work might be heavy, or it might be inverse. Again, I want you to start thinking about your mental load energy is precious. You only have a certain amount of bandwidth, and you're allocating across these 8 different types. If you've never heard this before, I hope this feels empowering and relieving. And what I'm telling you is as you go through the mental load quiz, as you go through our assessment, as you're taking our LightenLab mental load assessment, all of these categories are coming behind as you're getting your diagnostic score, is that these are adding up to certain types of experiences you're having, to certain types of ways in which you're operating in the world, to certain types of kind of composites or experiences you're having collectively. And so I want you to start thinking about this. As per always, I love you. Thank you for being here. I feel very empowered. I feel like this is one of my purposes in this world is to help you have the knowledge, the networks, the insight, the ability to reflect on yourself, to think about what are you carrying? What does your mental load look like? How does that shift across the day? How does that shift across your life? How does it shift across your workspace? What are other people carrying? Does it help you better empathize or understand that that person sitting right next to you, they might be in this incredible moment of a mental load overload based on the emotional support they're providing in their lives, based on the life organization that's coming for them because they have an ill and aging parent, or, all of these things. Maybe, their dreams are stifled. I hope that as you reflect on what you learned through this for yourself, that you're able to understand that we are all carrying it. And that for each of us, that mental load looks different and it can shift and shape over the day, over your life, over the week, over the seasons, over the years, across your life course. And having an understanding of how that's happening for you, and then having an understanding of how that's happening for the people in your lives, and then having the language to try to understand it and explain it is so key to my purpose here. You can find out more at LightenLab. We have the assessment there free available for you to do so you can get a handle on your mental load at this moment in time. Take it anytime. Take it again. Take it across the day and see if it's shifting. Take it across the month and see how it changes. And also drained. Drained is there. Reduce your mental load to do less and be more. I have concrete descriptions, concrete tools, concrete insights for you to take what I'm saying to you and apply it into your life. You need it. You want it. You love it. As per always, thanks so much for being here with me. I love you. More from Light and Lab coming soon, and I hope you have a lighter day. Mwah.